Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to be the new Supreme Court nomination, and all kinds of fun stuff comes off of that as we look over the news. In other news, Trump's tax returns have been released by the New York Times, so we'll go over a little bit of that. I didn't Ed Talk yesterday, and we talked a bit about that, but we'll go over a little bit more of that as well. Ron Paul is hospitalized, but he seems to be doing okay. And a new California law will allow transgender inmates to choose their prison. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, folks, and welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. A little bit to the left of my screen here. Let's move that over just a little bit. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to. It was quite the weekend from what I saw, and I took a social media break. And I still saw quite the weekend this past weekend, so I may be a little bit ignorant to some of the stories that are going on, but for the most part, I've kept up with everything that we could see here. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We carry great shows such as The Generational Gap, who just rounded out their 100th episode. We also carry The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brit Show. So come on over there, check us out, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. All right, let's have a look at the stocks here quick. So, let's scroll back up. On-air production. So, looking back over at the weekend here, we had a pretty good climb there because of the way that I set this up. Of course, we're not going to see where the chart landed, but it was about, well, the investors will tell us where it landed there, but looks like we had a pretty steady climb all throughout the day, back cresting over the 27,000 mark on the Dow Jones, and I'm pretty sure that the 27 to 28,000 mark is where we're going to be sitting going into election day. So keep that in mind. We dropped all the way down to 19,000 back in March, and now we're already back up to 27,000. Inflation is going to have a little bit of something to do with that, but still, some good news is still good news. So let's get on into the investors from Investors Business Daily to start us out for the day. Dow Jones futures jump as stock market looks to confirm new rally from Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures jumped Monday morning along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. A new stock market rally attempt is underway as another wild week on Wall Street ended on a high note. Apple, excuse me, that was a weird sound to come up when I took a breath at the wrong time. Apple stock reclaimed its 50-day line while Tesla held that key support. Meanwhile, many stocks are already showing promising charts, including Alibaba, Target, Nvidia, Broadcom, and Sea Limited. So these guys are pretty optimistic about this. After the long stock market rally came under increasing pressure, IBD changed the market direction to correction on Wednesday, but on Thursday and especially Friday, the stock market rebounded. The NASDAQ composite could confirm a new uptrend any day. A slew of leading stocks are setting up or flashing bullish rebounds or early entries. Apple is once again above its 50-day line, while fellow Dow Jones giant Microsoft isn't far off. Tesla stock tumbled last week amid wild swings, but held above its 50-day line and finished just over its 21-day exponential moving average. Target stock has formed a base while Alibaba has pulled stock back to its buy point and is finding support at its 50-day line. Nvidia has rebounded from its 10-week line while Broadcom stock has traded tightly amid market gyrations. Sea Limited is moving towards record highs in a short consolidation. All 5 stocks have relative strength lines at or near highs, reflecting their outperformance versus the S&P 500 index. But, and there's always a but, there has not yet been a follow-through day to confirm the new stock market rally attempt, so investors should maintain a defensive stance heading into the week. But investors should game plan for offense and defense. Investors should always be game planning for offense and defense. Everything you do in life, you should be planning for offense and defense. Should never have all of your eggs in one basket. All right, from the futures, Dow Jones futures rose 1.4% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures climbed 1.4%, and NASDAQ 100 futures advanced 1.9%. Remember, Overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. The U.S. has imposed export controls on Chinese ship SMIC, a state-backed entity key to Beijing's efforts to become self-reliant on advanced U.S. tech. U.S. chip makers will need licenses to export certain technologies to SMIC. Come on. There we go. Meanwhile, a federal judge blocked President Trump from banning downloads of the viral video site TikTok. A preliminary deal was struck over a week ago to give Oracle and Walmart minority stake, but China's ByteDance would still hold 80% and control TikTok's algorithm. So that's what we're going to see after this, and the war over TikTok continues. That happened over the weekend there. I'm going to see if I can tuck that into today's show. Otherwise, we'll be talking about it next week over on the RedNet show, which I know that's been something that Elaine has very much enjoyed, is the talk of TikTok. So we will check out what's seeing over that. But, I mean, I thought he was letting it go through. I don't know why a federal judge would need to block. Maybe it was preemptive. All right, let's keep going on into the next story here. Coming up from CNBC, Dow futures surge more than 300 points following a 4-week losing streak. From Yoon Lee. Stock futures jumped in early trading Monday to follow a 4-week losing streak on Wall Street. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average pointed to an opening gain of more than 300 points. S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ 100 futures. The joys. The joys of using Spectrum. We will be figuring out what's happening there because I will be heading back over there today and figuring out what's going on there. Let's keep going. The pandemic continues to keep investors on edge, but it was unclear whether a rise in cases in certain areas is a sign of resurgence. New daily coronavirus cases topped 1,000 in New York State on Saturday, marking the first time the state's new infections have broken the 1,000 threshold since early June. Investors bid up shares on Monday that would benefit from a vaccine and more economic comeback. Carnival Corporation and American Airlines were both up more than 4% in pre-market trading. Still, major averages are on track to post steep losses for September, a historically weak month for stocks. The Dow and the S&P 500 have fallen 4.4% and 5.8% respectively, while the NASDAQ has dropped 7.3%. The declines followed a massive comeback from the coronavirus sell-off that saw the S&P 500 climb more than 500% from its March bottom. September has been rough for U.S. equity markets, particularly the NASDAQ, wrote Mike Wilson, a chief U.S. equity strategist for Morgan Stanley. We expect it to bleed into October as visible risk events linger. Looking in the micro picture suggests that this is just a correction in a new bull market and the best opportunities remain in reopening beneficiaries. So, IBD and CNBC are in agreement. They're both looking to this to a positive direction. We won't know until the election comes around, but we will see what happens. All right. Let's get into the big news that just broke immediately last night. It's not really immediate anymore, but the news that just broke last night. This was so big to me that I actually did an ad talk on this immediately. Because this doesn't have implications for the president. This has implications for your Fourth Amendment rights. So we're going to read briefly from this. I read briefly from this yesterday too. And then I've actually gone through and read the entire article. And it is just as misleading as you would think that it would be coming up here. But from the New York Times, a former newspaper, long concealed records show Trump's chronic losses and years of tax avoidance. From Russ Bettner, Suzanne Craig, and Mike McIntyre, Donald J. Trump paid $750 in federal income taxes the year he won the presidency. In his first year in the White House, he paid another $750. He had paid no income tax at all in 10 of the previous 15 years, largely because he reported losing much more money than he made. Now, this is an important article just based on what we're seeing from this because they use this very first line here, and they use that as justification for everything else. I don't know why I can't highlight anything right now, but apparently I can't in this particular archive. But This was, and this is still the thing that's being talked about everywhere over on Twitter right now. Donald J. Trump paid $750 in federal income tax the year he won the presidency. And that's what they're taking the outrage mob over. Now, the New York Times has thus far not released any documents to the people, just the reporting that they want you to see. The fact that it's $750, for all intents and purposes. He paid $1,500 over 2 years and zero for 10 years before that. We don't know if this is corporate. We don't know if this is personal. But most of the people who are outraged right now don't know the difference from this. However, and this goes right along with what I mentioned last night, and that is the fact that, in reality, this is a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment. This is 100% against what the Constitution said you were going to do. And honestly now, we need to start looking into the ties between the media and the DNC. Because the New York Times just gave a very, very large campaign gift to the DNC at this point. They gave a massive campaign gift to them. Something to almost the point where you could think that they would have been paid to do this. Meaning that there's no reason for Congress to subpoena it anymore. Hey, we don't have to look. We don't have to get a subpoena. We don't have to go through due process. We just use what's out there as regular information. What's full-on information. That's all we have to use. We don't have to worry about any sort of constitutionality anymore. It's public record now. So this is huge. This is dangerous. You think you have rights before? You have no rights now. You have nothing. Because the government will go through if you become a nuisance to the government, they will go through one of their back channels to come out and try and make sure that you are shut down and you are never heard from again. This is something that you need to watch very closely. Because there are a lot bigger implications that come from this, from just in spite of the fact that this is just them releasing the tax returns we've been demanding for years. There's way more to this story than just that. But I read extensively into this last night, so let's just keep going on and talk about what the other people in the news are talking about on this. From CNN, tax bombshell reveals Trump's image is a sham. From Stephen Collinson, this is an opinion piece. So, this is not NewsGuard certified, even though it is coming from CNN. It was the moment when Donald Trump's art of the deal fabulism, billionaire tycoon bluster, and populist standard bearing for forgotten Americans was revealed to be what it always looked like, a sham. A stunning New York Times expose of the president's tax returns Sunday revealed a pitifully inept businessman and a serial tax avoider, crushed by massive debts that could expose him to conflicts of interest given his position as president, and power to help undisclosed lenders. Trump refused to talk about his tax returns and blessed the Times report as totally fake news on Sunday. But the article portrays the anti-elite crusader, who rails against corrupt system, as actually using its loopholes to avoid paying any federal taxes at all in 10 of 15 years, beginning in 2000 by writing off his own staggering losses. In 2016 and 2017 each, Trump paid just $750 in federal income taxes, far less than many Americans who are working hard amid a deep recession to stay afloat. Trump took huge deductions, including $70,000 to take care of his hair, also appeared to write off hundreds of thousands of dollars, paying his daughter Ivanka as a consultant to the Trump Organization, according to the Times report. Okay, I fail to see the issue with that one. I fail to see what the issue is with... Okay, they're going to scream nepotism off this. But in reality, Ivanka is coming in onto the Trump team, providing her time as a consultant. I fail to see why she isn't getting compensated, or why that's a problem that she gets compensated. I mean, if a restaurateur pays his 13-year-old kid to move tables and chairs so the waitresses can vacuum, shouldn't that 13-year-old kid get compensated? I'm failing to see a problem here. Anyway, The story also reveals the extent to which Trump's status as president is being used to shore up his losing ventures, for example, his hotel in Washington, D.C., and his golf resorts. Really, have you seen the documents? Because the New York Times didn't release them to anybody else. This is a con man in the White House, presidential historian Douglas Brinkley told CNN Sunday, referring to a president who shattered convention by refusing to release his tax records to the public while running for office. Tony Schwartz, who penned Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, said even he was surprised by the sheer brazenness of Trump's behavior, remarking to CNN's Anderson Cooper that it revealed the kind of mind that would think, I can get away with paying no taxes on hundreds of millions of dollars in income. The publication of the deeply reported article, based on more than 2 decades of his tax information obtained by the Times, comes just 2 days before the first presidential debate and 37 days before an election in which he is trailing Democrat Joe Biden. It poses a grave challenge to a presidency that we now know Trump may need to reserve to outrun creditors with hundreds of millions of dollars in loans coming due. It leaves the president facing multiple questions about his morals, behavior, and patriotism, since he appears to be paying more in taxes to several foreign nations than he is to Uncle Sam. The reporting also raises the possibility that Trump's deceptive accounting, already the focus of several investigations in New York, could open him up to serious legal issues when he leaves office. And I do have to wonder why, do they suddenly have these tax returns and how they got released? Because the only people that are supposed to have their hands on them are the IRS and the Southern District of New York Court. Those are the only 2 people, and of course the accounting firms as well, but those are the only 2 people in government that are allowed to have those documents right now. That court and the IRS themselves. You're starting to see a pattern forming here. The Times report, for instance, says the president has been battling the IRS for years over whether losses he claimed should have resulted in a staggering tax refund of $73 million. So, and yes, this was one of the big news stories that we're seeing off of this, and this is going to change the way that we see the debates tomorrow, too. Now, whether Biden can still thread together a coherent sentence at the debates, we will see, but yeah, this is definitely going to change things. Let's keep going here. From Bloomberg, Ron Helton's favorite website. Trump's taxes show he's a national security threat. From Timothy L. O'Brien. And I saw a few people trying to claim this over on Twitter as well, and I don't see where it is because several members in Congress have more in debt than Trump does. I promise you. But we will see what Bloomberg has to say. In a tour de force of hard-won reporting, the New York Times has put numerical clothing on what we've known about President Trump for decades. That, at best, he's a haphazard businessman, human billboard, and serial bankruptcy artist who gorges on debt he may have a hard time repaying. The Times, in a news story published Sunday evening that disclosed years of the president's tax returns, also put a lot of clothing on things that we didn't know. Trump paid just $750 in federal income tax in 2016, the year he was elected president. And the same amount the following year when he entered the White House. In many years recently, he hasn't paid anything at all. He's played so fast and loose with the tax man that he's entangled in an audit. He's been in audit for 30 fucking years. He paid his daughter Ivanka lush consulting fees that he deducted as a business expense. Don't see the problem there, even though she helped him manage the Trump organization. And he's taken questionable tax write-offs on everything from getting his hair coiffed to managing his personal residences. Step away from the tragicomic tawdriness and grift that the tax returns define, however, and focus on what they reveal about Trump as the most powerful man in the world and the occupant of the Oval Office. Due to his indebtedness, his reliance on income from overseas, and his refusal to authentically distance himself from the hodgepodge of business, Trump represents a profound national security threat. A threat that will only escalate if he's reelected. The tax returns also show the extent to which Trump has repeatedly betrayed the interests of many of the average Americans who elected him and remain his most loyal supporters. Really? Because that's not what I saw from his most loyal supporters last night. I have some history with Trump and his taxes. Trump sued me for libel in 2006 for a bio I wrote, Trump Nation. claiming the book misrepresented his track record as a businessman and lowballed the size of his fortune. He lost the suit in 2011. During the litigation, Trump resisted releasing his tax returns and other financial records. My lawyers got the returns, and while I can't disclose specifics of what I saw, I imagine that Trump has always refused to release them because they would reveal how robust his business and finances actually are and shine a light on some of his foreign sources of income. The Times has now solved that problem for us. According to the Times, Trump has about $421 million in debts from which he is personally guaranteed and which are coming due over the next several years. This is consistent with earlier reporting about how much debt he carries, a chunk of which could be gleaned from his personal financial disclosures he is required to file with the federal government, but Trump's overall indebtedness is greater than the Times tally, I believe. Russ Choma reported in Mother Jones last summer that Trump's debts were nearly $500 million and would come due in relatively short order, pressuring the president's finances. But Trump's debts are even bigger than that, and he's worked hard to keep them hidden for decades. Dan Alexander, a senior editor at Forbes, has been covering Trump's business interests since 2016, and has a new book out about the president's financial conflicts of interest. White House Incorporated, Alexander, in a helpful tally he shared Sunday evening, estimates Trump's total indebtedness to be about $1.1 billion. Now that's more like it. So, and I'm not going to go too far on this because this is also an opinion piece, and I'd rather stick with the NewsGuard sources off of this. Now, one of the things that's been bothering me from this is who is under the bus over this? Who got thrown under the bus to do this? Because whoever leaked this out did commit a crime. Now, of course, the New York Times legally obtained this. They did. Freedom of the press. They got it legally, but I'm sure that there's some low-level staffer either over at the Southern District of New York or at the New York Times or at Trump's consulting firms. There's some low-level staffer out there that's about to go to prison for 10 years over the fact that he leaked this out. But they're not going to tell you that story. They're just going to say, well, we legally obtained it. And in all honesty, I look at this as a good thing. President Trump paid $750 in income tax. How much did you pay? A lot of people, a lot of the normies out there have no idea what they pay in taxes every year. They have zero idea. They know what they got out of the refund check. But I guarantee you, if you walked up to 10 people in the bar and said, hey, what did you pay for taxes? 7 of them would punch you in the face. But 9 of them have no idea what they pay in taxes every year. 9 of them have no idea. And I'm willing to bet that a bunch of people are going to start looking at this. And a lot of Trump's most loyal base doesn't care. And Liberty Twitter is going to look at this and say, hey, taxation is theft. Hey, you want to tell me how you lower those taxes there? Let me see your accountant, because I want to lower my taxes too, because taxation is theft. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of that coming up off of this. This could be a tremendous backfire. But we'll see what happens with this, and I do kind of want to see what an Adderall-laced Joe Biden does with this tomorrow night. I really kind of want to see that now. This is, last week we read about the HuffPo piece where, I'm going to join a satanic cult because Amy Coney Barrett is going to the Supreme Court. This season of Federal Apprentice is second to none, and I hope it gets renewed for 4 more seasons because the writers are just outdoing themselves. All right, let's keep going here from CNN. Going on to the other big piece of news coming off of this. Trump nominates Amy Coney Barrett as Supreme Court Justice from Megan Vasquez and Kevin Liptak. President Donald Trump on Saturday said he is nominating Amy Coney Barrett, a conservative federal appeals court judge, to succeed the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the U.S. Supreme Court, setting off a fierce partisan battle in the waning days of a hotly contested presidential election. Calling it a very proud moment indeed, Trump called Barrett a woman of towering intellect and unyielding loyalty to the Constitution who would rule based solely on the fair reading of the law. The flag-bedecked rose garden, designed to mimic Ginsburg's own nomination ceremony in 1993, Trump recounted Barrett's educational and professional background, noted her 7 children, and hailed her ties to another late Supreme Court Justice, Antonin Scalia, for whom she clerked. "I looked, and I studied, and you're very eminently qualified for the job," Trump told his nominee. "You're going to be fantastic." Trump declared before an audience that included Scalia's widow, Republican senators, and several figures in the conservative media as one of our nation's most brilliant and gifted legal minds. In her own remarks, Barrett offered only a glimpse of what type of justice she would be and did not delve into specifics. "A judge must apply the law as written," she said. "Judges are not policymakers." Instead, she sought to cast herself as a public servant, one who, at 48, could potentially serve on the court for decades. If confirmed, I would not assume that role for the sake of those in my own circle, and certainly not for my own sake. I would assume this role to serve you, she said. The nomination comes at a critical time in history as the president openly questions the integrity of the upcoming election and has not committed to a peaceful transfer of power in the event that he loses. He's repeatedly said the Supreme Court needed to have all 9 seats filled ahead of Election Day in case the court needed to weigh in on the legality of mail-in ballots being sent to Americans across the country amid the coronavirus pandemic, and several weighty cases loom on the immediate horizon, should she be confirmed as swiftly as Republicans hope, including one that could determine the fate of the ACA. Oh please, oh please, oh please, oh please. Trump seemed to momentarily shrug off the looming battle, even if Barrett herself said Saturday she was under no illusions about how difficult her confirmation might be. "This should be a straightforward, prompt confirmation," Trump said. "I'm sure it will be extremely non-controversial. We said that the last time, didn't we?" He's got the jokes. He definitely has the jokes. But Democrats are already writing off her nomination, which had been widely expected. By nominating Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, President Trump has once again put the Americans' health care in the crosshairs. Chuck Schumer wrote in a statement, adding, "A vote for Barrett amounted to a vote to strike down the Affordable Care Act." Barrett was appointed by Trump to the 7th Circuit and advocates on the right. There seems to be something missing in that sentence. Oh, that's because I used that as a verb, not a noun. Okay, let me read that with that as a noun. Barrett was appointed by Trump to the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in 2017, and advocates on the right have backed her nomination because of her writings on faith and the law. The 7th Circuit is based in Chicago and covers cases from Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. If her Senate confirmation is successful before the November election, an appointment would mark Trump's 3rd U.S. Supreme Court pick in one presidential term, cementing a conservative stronghold in the court for a generation. Pack the court! Pack the court! All right, let's keep going. So, yeah, Coney Barrett is going to be the nominee. We will see what kind of fireworks Kamala Harris can do. And Elaine pointed out a very good point coming into this, and that is the fact that this gives Kamala Harris another reason to go onto the Senate floor and make campaign ads from the Senate floor, blatantly violating the Hatch Act, since everybody over on the left has such a massive fucking hard-on for the Hatch Act. But yeah, that will be a blatant violation, and yet she's still going to do it. She's still going to get on the Senate floor and make her campaign ads. All right, let's check this one out from NPR, which we're not going to read like this, even though that's how they would read it over on NPR while you're driving along, with that deep, soft voice that's not threatening, and that'll make you go to sleep. And the NPR reports, Amy Coney Barrett, a dream for the right, a nightmare for the left. This is an opinion piece, so this is not going to be something that we use as a green check verified, but it's still a good thing. This is J. Edgar for NPR. Wow, that gets annoying even to me. Let's keep going. From President Trump's nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to fill the Supreme Court seat, made vacant by the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, is seen as a home run for conservatives. It is a chance to move the High Court in a far more aggressively conservative direction for generations. In political terms, Barrett is the dream candidate for conservative Republicans and the nightmare candidate for Democrats. Yeah, because she's not going to legislate from the bench. For Republicans, the 48-year-old judge is young and personally unassailable nominee. A devout Catholic, she is the mother of 7, including a child with Down syndrome and 2 children she and her husband, Jesse Barrett, adopted from Haiti. She is beloved in her community and by her students at Notre Dame Law School, where she taught for 15 years. She was voted best professor 3 times and still teaches part-time at the school. If you talk to students, the thing that stands out to them is that she really makes an effort to get to know them, understand them, and help them, says G. Marcus Cole, dean of the law school. It's more than that, though. Barrett is willing to go the extra mile when necessary. For instance, going to bat for Laura Wolf, a blind student who, upon entering the law school, found the school computer software didn't allow her to access law books and other legal materials in a format she needed to read for her classes. As Wolk recounts, when she told Barrett about it, Barrett replied, "This is one I absolutely can take off your plate." And she did, getting the law school to quickly purchase the needed software, says Wolk, who would go to graduate second in her class and serve as a law clerk for Justice Clarence Thomas. Barrett's busy schedule and her many roles leave people in South Bend, Indiana, scratching their heads and asking this question: how does she do it? She starts most days at the gym at 4 a.m., according to her friends, because the appeals court she sits on meets in Chicago. She commutes regularly, driving an hour and 45 minutes to get there from South Bend. Oof. No, thank you. Nobody seriously disputes Barrett's sparkling intellect and qualifications to serve on the Supreme Court. Rather, it is her work on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals and her scholarly writing and commentary that have drawn such fervent opposition from the left and support from the right. It is the positions that she has taken over the years, from anti-abortion, anti-gay marriage, letter from Catholic women that she signed in 2015, to her judicial decisions since then. Barrett has criticized the Supreme Court's 5-4 and 6-3 decisions upholding key sections of Obamacare. Both were written by conservative Justice John Roberts. But in a 2015 interview on NPR, Barrett opined that in her view, the dissenters had the better of the argument. In a lecture at Jacksonville University in 2016, the days before the election, Barrett warned that if Hillary Clinton were elected, the court would experience a sea change in ideology. But as Nan Aaron, president of the Liberal Alliance for Justice, puts it, it is Barrett's ideology that now presents a potential sea change. Aaron says that President Trump has made clear his 2 qualifications for a Supreme Court justice. She must be opposed to Roe v. Wade, and the candidate has to, like Trump, do whatever she can to overturn the Affordable Care Act. Aaron and others contend that Barrett's record fits the bill on both counts and much more. I would love to see a citation for that, because I think that's full-on bullshit. But because I don't have a citation in front of me, I can't say if it definitively is full-on bullshit, but it looks like full-on bullshit. So, yes, a dream for conservatives. They're going to protect the babies. A nightmare for Democrats. They're going to protect the babies. But we'll see what happens off of this. I'm sure we'll be talking much more about this tonight. Let's move on and see one here from Fox News. Amy Coney Barrett confirmation inside the White House's plan to deploy knife fighters to defend the nominee. From Brooke Singman. The White House is mounting an offensive communication strategy ahead of Supreme Court nominee Judge Amy Coney Barrett's upcoming Senate confirmation fight, with aides describing an aggressive plan for knife fighters to fiercely defend the nominee ahead of what's expected to be a heated battle on Capitol Hill. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. I want to see this so fucking bad. Fox News has learned from the White House, has formed a team to handle what's to come in the weeks ahead as Senate Republicans aim to get President Trump's nominee confirmed to the High Court before Election Day. Senior White House officials told Fox News that the team is broken into 2 parts, one focused on communications and the other focused on guiding Barrett through the process on Capitol Hill. Senior officials argued that the team is uniquely equipped for the mission. The White House communications team will consist of Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, Deputy Press Secretary Brian Morgenstern, a graduate of Columbia Law School, and White House communications officials Alyssa Farah and Ben Williamson, who are veterans of Capitol Hill and who have unique relationships with Republican leadership in both chambers of Congress and are also on the team. The communications team will also include White House staff who will be dedicated to a rapid response effort and research. We will need to be knife fighters with the opposition and will be prepared to marshal information quickly and disseminate it to push back on any false narratives or attacks on her and her family because we anticipate, unfortunately, that Democrats will go there, a senior official told Fox News. So we're mounting an offensive strategy on her behalf because she is an incredible and inspiring nominee, the officials continued. We'll be defending her fiercely every day. Another official told Fox News that the communications team intends to be very well synced with Senate communicators, including Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's office, the Senate Republican Conference, and the Senate Judiciary Committee. We will work closely with them, the official said, who is unnamed because there is no integrity anywhere in the media anymore. Now, if I put up an unnamed source, like if I got an interview with an unnamed source or got information from that, my channel would be shut down immediately by Wojcicki as being a conspiracy theory website and operating on dubious ethical journalistic standards. But hey, Fox News can just put up an anonymous source. And it's all farts and fucking rainbows. So that's what we're going to see off of this. This is going to be a big one. This is going to be an absolutely big one. And I hope you've got plenty of popcorn to sit back and watch it, because I'm going to be watching it with popcorn, sitting back. It's going to be huge. Huge, I tell you. All right, let's keep going. Biden says moving forward with Barrett nomination before Election Day is an abuse of power. Come on, man. From Eric Quintanar over at the Daily Wire. During remarks on Sunday, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden accused Republicans of engaging in an abuse of power for moving forward to fill the Supreme Court vacancy left by the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg before Election Day, emphasizing that early voting has already started in some states. U.S. Constitution provides one chance, for the Americans to have their voices heard on who serves in a lifetime appointment on Supreme Court, who makes those big decisions about their health care, their civil rights, and much else, said Biden. That chance is now. That moment is now. And the voters, in my view, are not going to stand for this abuse of power. And if we're to call ourselves a democracy, their voices must be heard, he added. President Donald Trump officially nominated 7th Circuit Court of Appeals Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court on Saturday, kicking off a confirmation process that is expected to continue into late October, mere days before the election. Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. This is going to go right up to days before the election. So, pretty much, Biden got up and, in so many words, said, "Come on, man." All right. From the Blaze. Excellent idea, Ted Cruz responds to Dem Senator's threat to boycott Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation. And we'll confirm her faster. This comes to us from Chris Enlow. Senator Ted Cruz fired back the perfect response to Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal on Sunday after the Connecticut lawmaker promised to boycott Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation. In a lengthy Twitter rant, Blumenthal called Barrett's nomination an illegitimate sham process. He claimed that Barrett's views would harm real lives, citing health care and female reproductive rights, and ultimately vowed to boycott her entire confirmation process. "I will refuse to treat this process as legitimate and will not meet with Judge Amy Coney Barrett," Blumenthal said. The Texas senator said Blumenthal's promise to boycott Barrett is not a bad thing. In fact, Cruz said it would be beneficial if every Democrat senator took the same position as Blumenthal. That way, Barrett would be confirmed to the Senate Supreme Court even quicker. "Excellent idea, and if you and your Dem colleagues boycott the hearing altogether, we'll avoid the political circus and the desperate attempts to smear Judge Barrett and her family," Cruz said, "and we'll confirm her faster." Unfortunately for Cruz, Democrats, despite not having enough votes in the Senate to block Barrett's nomination, are not going to stand by idly. According to Politico, Senate Democrats are going to use every weapon in their arsenal to try and delay Barrett's unstoppable confirmation. Please, oh dear God, please impeach again. That's what I want to see. Impeach them impeach him one more time. And hit Barr too. Just spend all the money you can right before the election. Come on, just do it, please. I want to see this. I really want to see this. The options of disruption include invoking the rarely used 2-hour rule, denying quorum, calling points of order and motions to adjourn, delaying legislative business, and delaying the final Senate Judiciary Committee vote on Barrett, according to Politico. And this is something Democrats do all the time, too. I remember distinctly when Act 10 went into place in Wisconsin, which is when I started getting into politics and understanding what the world meant and what the duopoly was trying to do to us in our lives. That may have been what actually started me down the liberty path, and realizing that the Republicans are just as much of assholes as Democrats are. When Scott Walker passed Act 10, or tried to pass Act 10 in Wisconsin, which was public sector union reform and right to work, the Democrats in the Wisconsin Assembly, and I believe the Wisconsin Senate as well, I believe it was both chambers of the Wisconsin legislature, knew that they didn't have the votes to do so, but knew that a certain percentage of people had to be in chamber in order to take up any sort of vote on any sort of legislation. So they went and hid in Illinois. And the state patrol actually went through and charged them for that, because it was against the law for them to do that, for them to disrupt the legislative process by not appearing, essentially. I don't remember the exact details on this. This was 10 years ago, and once again, I was just starting to learn what politics was all about at the time, so I don't know what all went into that. I actually want to, now that I'm thinking about it, I want to go back and research that and just see what laws were broken for that. But yes, the State Patrol did wind up having to go back and get the legislators so they could come back and bring this up for a vote. And they do it all the time on stuff like this too. They try to bring this back and hold stuff up by not being present. So we'll see what happens off of this. They don't have... looking over on Twitter, the Democrats they almost seem disparaged off all of this too. I don't know if the rest of you have noticed this over on Twitter, but it almost seems like they know it's not gonna happen, and they're not even trying. Because they don't want to seem sexist. They don't want to make sexist campaign ads coming into what they consider to be the biggest election of the world, but in reality is only the biggest election in history until the next election comes around. So, that's what we saw for this one here. What else do we got? I think I got one more on Barrett before we move into Veritas and some other news. So, from the Daily Wire, Senator Dick Durbin says Dems can only slow Barrett's confirmation. We can't stop it. From Paul Bois, the Democrat base wants party leaders to stop at nothing in the fight to keep Judge Amy Coney Barrett off the Supreme Court, but Senator Dick Durbin says that while they can slow her confirmation, they will not be able to stop it. Speaking on ABC's This Week, Durbin concurred that Democrats do not have a silver bullet to take out Barrett, and they can only do so much. We can slow it down, perhaps a matter of hours, maybe days at the most, but we can't stop the outcome, Durbin told Stephanopoulos, as reported by NPR. Durbin strongly criticized Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, pushing Barrett's nomination prior to the election, and alleged reversal of his stance in 2016. And once again, you are also sitting here at a full reversal of your stance in 2016, Durbin. I've seen the documents. I've seen the statements. Twitter remembers. You simple-minded Illonesian prick. Now we're going hell-bent on getting this done before the election, Durbin said. And the second thing, of course, he reversed the position he took 4 years ago, saying that we should wait for the next presidency to fill the vacancy. Durbin also argued that Barrett should recuse himself from any future cases pertaining to the 2020 presidential election. Why? Why? Why would she do that? Your nominee wouldn't do that. You'd be slamming somebody through so fucking fast right now if the roles were reversed. Let's say Schumer is the nominee. And this was something that I actually feared when Scalia died, because I didn't know what the complete process was at the time. But this was something that I feared when Scalia died. I thought when Scalia died, Barack Obama was going to fast track his next nominee through, and that was going to be somebody who was going to serve on the court and say, oh yeah, we can suspend the elections for right now because, it's so dangerous that Trump is coming in. or something else to that matter. I did not think that Barack Obama was going to want to leave the presidency. I don't think he actually does, but I did not think for a second that he was going to want to leave the presidency. I certainly wish she would. Anyway, going back to what I was saying before I go back into this article. No, let's reverse the roles for a second. We've got Hillary Clinton as the president, facing off in a rematch against Donald Trump because the Trumpsters put him back up as the nominee one more time and he ran again. So we've got Hillary Clinton facing off against Donald Trump right now. Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies. Now, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died on a Friday, allegedly. I think she's been dead for quite a while, but she died on a Friday. By Tuesday, Hillary Clinton's third Supreme Court pick would be confirmed. And now, of course, this is assuming that Ginsburg had stayed on the court this long, too. That's something else you have to keep in mind. You have to keep in mind the fact that Ginsburg would have retired immediately on Clinton coming into office had she come into office. So, but just in this specific situation, Ginsburg dies 2 months before the election. Ginsburg dies on Friday. Nominee comes out on Monday, confirmed by Wednesday, and they are doing everything they can and salivating to make sure that the new nominee weighs in on the upcoming election. Every single thing that you see in partisan politics right now, if you want to get the actual truth of what's going on, reverse the parties every time, and you will be disgusted in what you see coming up out of them. All right. Let's keep going. And that's what Dick Durbin had to say of this. And like I said, Dick Durbin definitely said different things 4 years ago when it was Merrick Garland that was going to be up for consideration. All right, I've got some video for you guys here because, of course, none of the mainstreams are going to put this out. So let's have a listen. I haven't even listened to this yet, but it's Veritas, so I know it's going to be juicy. And it's going to be selectively edited. But Veritas has got another release. And this time it has to do with ballot harvesting. So I'm actually, and like I said, with you guys, I'm hearing this for the very first time. So let me turn your ears on and let's see what Veritas has to say.
James O'Keefe here in downtown Minneapolis at the scene of the crime. The person you're about to meet, Liban Mohammed, aka King Liban 1, boasts about the hundreds of absentee ballots in his car.
Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Wajida gaarigaygu waa buuxaa. Waxaas waa absent ballot salka yaala. Soo ma jeedin. Fiiri, waxaas oo dhan soo ma jeedin. Waa buuxaa gaarigaygu. Waa buuxaa yaala. Waxaas kullu waa Jamaal Cusmaan way. Fiiri. 300 clear maanta soo dhacday oo Jamaal Cusmaan. Yeah.
There was video. You could see the video. There was a video out and about that he has the ballots in his car.
Right.
And talking about the only way you can win is with money. I was looking at them and they were not filled. They were blank.
Who is the one filling out the absentee ballots?
People who work with, like Ilhan Omar.
Where do they pay the money?
The minute we sign the thing, the election, that's what you get paid.
Money is everything. Money is the key in this world. If you ain't got money, you should not be here, period.
marka odayaasha waa loo codsadaa waana laga qaadaa
At the end of this street,
Yes.
there's 3 towers called Horn Towers.
Okay.
And it's all seniors, and they took every ballot.
Every ballot. They just take
Every
them from
single
them.
ballot. They knock on the door and say, your ballots, come give it to me, give it to me.
They don't even pay them for it. They just take it.
No. And the ones that didn't vote on ballots, the young people and the women and stuff, they were paying cash. They were getting bags of money the last 1 week here to drive people. So there's a vested interest, but we are victims of the system. They don't give a shit about any Somali.
2 in the morning, still hustling.
Who is the one filling out the absentee ballots?
People who work with, like Ilhan Omar and other candidates who work for them. They came to us, to our apartments. They tell us that this year you're going to vote for it. You don't go nowhere, you stay home, we will tell you fill out for your absentee ballot. When it comes, we'll come and get it. You just don't go nowhere, you stay here. They fill it for us.
All right, so that is what we're seeing from Veritas there. Of course, draw your own conclusions. That was very, very anonymous. So, this isn't like Kyle Jurek where they had his face up and everything. There are a lot of anonymous peoples out there. A lot of people that didn't sign a release or anything. This is a lot of hidden camera stuff. And Minnesota is a two-party consent state. So, take this one as you see it. Because there are a lot of moving parts that go along with this. But to get people on camera saying this is definitely something that's definitely something to pay attention to. All right, let's keep going we'll get into some election news here. From Fox, Biden campaign response to Trump's call for drug test. President thinks his best case is made in urine. From Nick Givas. After President Trump demanded a drug test for himself and Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden before the presidential debate Tuesday, Biden's campaign team mocked the commander-in-chief for wanting to make his case in urine. In a tweet on Sunday, Trump questioned Biden's previous debate performances and claimed that there was a disturbingly erratic pattern in the former vice president's performance. He added that he would be willing to take a drug test as well. I will strongly demand a drug test of Sleepy Joe Biden prior to or after the debate on Tuesday night, Trump wrote. Naturally, I will agree to take one also. His debate performances have been record-setting, uneven, to put it mildly. Only drugs could have caused this discrepancy. Biden's deputy campaign manager, Kate Bedingfield, responded to Trump's comments, disparaging the president and accusing him of trying to deflect from the coronavirus pandemic. Dude, nobody cares about coronavirus anymore. They can't use the Supreme Court nominee, and the tax records, we'll see how they use those, but nobody gives a fuck about the coronavirus anymore. Vice President Biden intends to deliver his debate answers in words. If the president thinks his best case is made in urine, he can have at it, she wrote. We'd expect nothing less from Donald Trump, who pissed away the chance to protect the lives of 200,000 Americans when he didn't make a plan to stop COVID-19. The first debate, moderated by Fox News' Chris Wallace, is scheduled for September 29th at Case Western University and the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio. The format will be 6 15-minute-long segments, each one dedicated to a specific topic. Oh, thank God. Oh, we get to watch this. We get to watch this happen in real time. And, of course, we want to see just how much Adderall they're going to shove into Joe Biden to make sure that he's cogent and coherent for this drug test. But, I mean, President Trump says that he doesn't take drugs, but he's 73 years old, and he gets up, and he puts on a campaign rally. He gets up and he does his presidential business, gets on Air Force One, does a campaign rally, and talks for 2 hours straight in high energy. Dude's taking something. He's got to be. I don't care. Schedule 1 is bullshit, but dude's fucking taking something. He's got to be. There's no way. There's no way Diet Coke does that much. So, we will see if there's actually a drug test going along with that. I doubt it. I don't think it's going to happen. But, we'll see. Let's keep going. I said, let's keep going. Okay, apparently my browser doesn't really want to work, but there we go. Duct tape production. I need to build a new computer. Biden campaign confirms newly surfaced viral video of Joe Biden calling U.S. troops stupid bastards. Says remarks were made in jest. From Carlos Garcia. The Joe Biden presidential campaign scrambled to explain away a newly surfaced video showing the Democratic candidate calling U.S. troops stupid bastards during a visit overseas in 2016. The video was circulated widely among Biden's critics on social media Friday afternoon. This is such a fucking non-starter that nobody should even give a damn about it. This is the biggest non-starter in the world. Let's have a listen. Just so you guys know what we're actually dealing with this. And I've still got the audio on.
Notwithstanding what you may hear about me, I have incredibly good judgment. One, I married Jill. And two, I appointed Johnson to the Academy. I just want you to know that. Just clap for that, you stupid bastards.
So, and this is a non-star. This is nothing. This is a gigantic nothing burger because that's, he's reading the room. He knows what kind of audience he's in. I wouldn't have done that as the president, but, he's out there trying to be one of the boys. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this topic because it is literally fucking nothing. There is nothing to this. A guy standing in front of army guys, talking like an army guy. I don't see a problem here. Let's keep going from the Daily Wire. Holy shit, this thing runs slow. Student told to leave virtual high school class unless he removed the Trump flag behind him. From Hank Berrien. A 16-year-old student learning at home in a virtual high school chemistry class was told he would be kicked out of the class if he didn't remove a Trump 2020 campaign flag from the wall in the back of his bedroom. Oh, fuck no. No, state entity, you are not going to tell me what I'm going to have in my personal and private home. No. No, state. Bad state. Oh, fuck no. The boy's mother told ABC 10 that he left the Zoom meeting being held for his Calusa high school chemistry class before he could be removed, she said. I made it very clear that when he repositioned the camera, either the flag needed to be removed or not in the background, or she was kicking him out, and she gave him 15 seconds. ABC 10 noted another student in the classroom took a recording of the virtual classroom as the teacher counted to 15, the boy's mother said. At first I was furious, noting that the teacher had since apologized. She continued, with the distance learning we are all forced to do because of the new color chart. The school district has not addressed the students' rights in their own home. No, the school does not get any rights into the home. No. To the teachers or to us as parents. The Calosa Unified School District Student Handbook states the governing board believes that free inquiry and exchange of ideas are essential parts of democratic education. The board respects the students' right to express ideas and opinions, take stands on issues, and support causes even when such speech is controversial or unpopular. Students have the right to exercise freedom of speech and of the press, including but not limited to the use of bulletin boards, the distribution of printed materials or petitions, the wearing of buttons, badges, or insignia, and the right of expression in official publication. The student handbook continues. Student expression on school or internet websites and online media shall generally be afforded the same protections as in print media. Students' freedom of expression shall be limited only as allowed by Education Code 48707 and 48950 and other applicable state and federal laws. No, and I don't even know where Calusa is. Oh, California. Pfft. Big fucking surprise there. But yes, no, state of California, you will not tell people what they will and will not do in their own home. No. And we've got a transcript here as well. I just want to cover the first paragraph of this transcript just to kind of tell you what's going on politically with all of this. According to OpenSecrets.org, teachers' unions have steadily amped up their political involvement from 2004 to 2016. Their donations grew from $4.3 million to more than $32 million, an all-time high, even more than most labor unions, and they have little use for Republicans, giving Democrats at least 94% of the funds that they contributed to candidates and parties since as far back as 1990, when our data begins. So yes, no, the biases are right there. I am so glad that I did not go down the education path, because that was the first thing I was going to do when I got out of high school. I went to college to go be a teacher. And I am so glad I didn't, because I would be a slave to the fucking teachers union at this point. Of course, I would have also never lived out east. I probably wouldn't have gotten engaged. No, I would have gotten engaged the second time, but I mean, a lot of my life would have changed differently, and I probably wouldn't be sitting in front of this microphone right now, which I absolutely love doing if I had gone down the path that I had initially decided to do when I was in high school. But Yes, of course, the teachers union is shelling out that kind of money and telling their people that they are going to be shelling out that money or they're going to be disallowed from joining the teachers union. The union members do not like free thought. All right. Let's give this a second to catch up here because goddamn Brave is slow. Maybe I will have to go back to Chrome. I hope not. But we'll see from this. Coming from Fox News, Trump takes press to task for skipping over Hunter Biden scandals, from Edmund DeMarsh. President Trump on Sunday may have shown a preview of this week's upcoming presidential debate when he asked reporters at the White House why, in his opinion, they have been reluctant to look into Joe Biden's son Hunter Biden's business involvement in Russia, Ukraine, and China, while his father was vice president. China. If we had a media that was fair, even just reasonable, this would be the biggest story for years and years, Trump said. Then you'd be entitled to real Pulitzer Prizes, not the fake committee that gives away these fake awards. Trump's comment was made after the New York Times released a report that he avoided paying taxes for 10 of the past 15 years. Trump called the Times report another example of fake news. Trump has brought up Hunter Biden in the past, two Republican-led Senate committees issued a report last week alleging that the work Hunter Biden did in the Ukraine constituted a conflict of interest for the Obama administration. His father had taken the lead in some initiatives dealing with Kiev. The report did not implicate Joe Biden in wrongdoing, focusing instead on his son, who had said cashed in on his father's position by joining the board of a Ukrainian gas company. Don Jr. on Sunday took to Twitter to call out a wire transfer to Hunter Biden for $3.5 million from the billionaire widow of the former mayor of Moscow. He also called out the media. Hunter Biden received $3.5 million wire transfer from Elena Baturina, the billionaire widow of Yuri Lushkov, the former mayor of Moscow, a known associate of Putin. Where are fearless journalists now that there's a real Russian connection? Trump Jr. tweeted. Must be over the hour mark. And yeah, Junior's absolutely right. Flip the parties once again. If this was Don Jr., what do you think the news would look like right now? If this was Don Jr., what do you think we'd be seeing from this? What do you think they'd be saying? What do you think the headlines would be? If this wasn't Hayden. If this wasn't Hunter. If this was Don Jr. or Eric or Ivanka. Or even Tiffany, for that matter. If this was any of them, what do you think the news story would be right now? You know it would be. All right. From the New York Post. Ron Paul hospitalized after he appears to suffer stroke during a live stream. From Laura Italiano. Ron Paul, a former Texas congressman, presidential candidate, and the father of Senator Rand Paul, suffered an apparent stroke-like illness in the middle of a live stream on Friday afternoon, and I'm positive I can't show this on YouTube. Wojcicki would have a field day. Even on a 223 subscriber channel, Wojcicki would have a field day. Paul, 85, who was live streaming his weekday Liberty Report broadcast on YouTube, has been hospitalized for precautionary reason, Fox News reported. Message from Ron Paul. I'm doing fine. Thank you for your concern. He tweeted just before 3 p.m. alongside a photo of him in a hospital bed, smiling and giving a thumbs up. A clip of the disturbing medical episode was first tweeted out by the outlet Intelwave. The live event may have been a blessing in disguise, the outlet added in a subsequent tweet. Yep, he's doing great. Echoing the sentiment of one of my associates, I'm glad it happened live, where someone noticed immediately and could get him medical help, rather than it happening and him being only being found hours later, the tweet said. And we go back into... Oh, no, we've got some interesting stuff to go here. Paul ran for president 3 times, first as a libertarian in 1988. He threw his hat in the ring for the Republican in 2008 and 2012. Paul was in the middle of talking about free market economists when he began to slur his words, according to saved clips of the live stream. We have to get rid of that, and it's a bird, he struggled to say before his speech becomes unintelligible. The YouTube stream was quickly taken down, afterwards. representatives for Rand Paul and Ron Paul were not immediately available for comment. So yeah, they took it down right away, which that's why I'm thinking I can't show any of the clips from it, because they were quick to get this one down off YouTube. So I'm sure that they don't want anybody else to see it, but he's alive and he's doing okay. And he's 85 years old. He's lived a good life. He has absolutely 100% lived a good life. But that did stop a myriad of Liberty Twitter coming up and screaming about it. I was sad about it. I'm not disparaging them in any stretch of the imagination for it. I was sad about it, but yes, the cries from the Liberty side of Twitter echoed loudly across this country. But again, he is fine. And I know he doesn't have many years left on this world, but may he find enjoyment in the few years that he does have left. All right, let's keep going here from the Blaze. Governor Newsom signs law allowing transgender inmates to be placed in prison by their gender identity. Officers required to use preferred pronouns. An hour and 10 minutes. Of course I'm slurring my words. From Paul Saka. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a new law on Saturday allowing transgender inmates to be placed in prisons based on their gender identity. Previously, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation housed men and women in separate correctional facilities, and transgender inmates were housed based on their biological sex. The new California law will allow transgender inmates to be housed based on their gender identity rather than their sex assigned at birth. I can't see any way that this goes wrong. Can you? I can't. I can't find any way that this goes wrong. The Transgender Respect, Agency, and Dignity Act notes that officers must privately ask inmates during the intake process on how they identify as transgender, non-binary, or intersex. Inmates can request to be placed in a facility that houses either men or women based on how they identify. Okay, what if they change their mind the next day? I mean, are they just going to spend the rest of their prison term going back and forth between prisons? Do you see where this ends? Are the transgender men going to be targets in the shower room? Are the transgender women? Are they going to be the one targeting in the women's room? You can see where this goes. And once again, we go back down the idea of the power that the state has and how many laws that are out there that are bullshit off of this. You know where this would become a much, much smaller problem? If you repealed some of the fucking laws. Get rid of the laws so we don't have so many people in prison. Anything that's anything that is a victimless crime doesn't need to have a law against it. Let it be a civil suit if somebody really wants to get into it that way. But we can eliminate tons of laws from the books, and then we don't have to have so many people in prison. And of course, Senator Scott Wiener is part of this. Senator Scott Wiener, a Democrat from San Francisco who authored the bill, said that SB 132 would protect particularly trans women who are subject to high levels of assault and harassment in men's facilities. It's just a false narrative about transgender people and how transgender women in particular, that they're somehow not really women and are just trying to scam their way into women's bathrooms or facilities in order to do bad things, Wiener said. Overwhelmingly, the people who are being victimized are the trans people. You know that in 2004, and I gotta point this out, in 2004, nobody gave a fuck what bathroom that you used. And the bathroom was a system of evacuating waste from your body. It wasn't a political statement. All right, let's keep going. I got just a few more here, and then we'll do something that restores my faith in humanity, and we'll get the hell out of here. I think these are all real quick hitters, too. So let's get down the list. Ex-Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale hospitalized after police respond to alleged self-harm threat, report says. Law enforcement officials in Fort Lauderdale reportedly responded to a call on Sunday afternoon that former Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale was threatening to harm himself. Police have not confirmed that Parscale worked for Trump, but records confirm that the property in Fort Lauderdale is owned by Parscale, 44, and to Local 10 has spoken to his neighbors who said that it was the former advisor to the president. WPLG Local 10 News reported, when officers arrived on the scene, they made contact with the wife of the man who told them her husband was armed, had access to multiple firearms inside the house, and was threatening to harm himself. The South Florida Sun-Sentinel reported that Parscale didn't threaten police and he went willingly under Florida's Baker Act, which allows police to detain a person who is potentially a threat to himself or others. WPLG said that the police were responding to an armed male attempting suicide, while the South Florida Sun-Sentinel said that Parscale's wife contacted police worried that he was suicidal and had firearms. You gotta wonder what's happening with that, but this is a breaking story, so there are no details off of this, but being associated with Trump and then not being associated with Trump, and I don't care for Parscale. I would never wish for him to harm himself. I would never wish for anything like this, but I don't know. I feel like there's going to be something more that comes up out of this, especially, once again, this close to an election. All right, one here from my neck of the woods, from WISN out of Wisconsin. Car slams into home in Wauwatosa. No one inside home hurt. And I gleaned this from the Beauty and the Beta Frozen North Discord server. So thanks to you guys. A car slammed into a home on Friday afternoon at 64th Street and Meineke Avenue in Wauwatosa, which is a Milwaukee suburb. It turned out to the side and just kept spinning in the air, a witness Rathkamp said. From her balcony, she saw the car speed out of control through her Wauwatosa neighborhood. From the moment I saw it, up until it hit the house, it just kept getting faster and faster, Rathkamp said. It hit a small tree across the intersection and launched off a small hill into the home. It sounded like a bomb, witness Rathkamp said. I ran here dialing 911, just shaking. It's terrible. Yeah, it's awful. Fire crews and Milwaukee's heavy urban rescue team secured the car. The driver, who was the only person in the car, appeared alert as paramedics rushed him off. There were no other vehicles involved. Kind of wish the picture would have come off for that, but apparently it didn't, because, the picture on the preview, I'm going to refresh this and just see if it pops up, but the picture on the preview showed the car sideways into the house, and I thought it was kind of impressive to see on that scale. It's the kind of thing you only see in video games and on CG. No, they're not going to show us the picture. All right. Let's keep going here. From The Blaze, Spotify employees threaten full-blown strike if Joe Rogan isn't censored. Report. Joe Rogan just took a big fucking hit of DMT and doesn't give a fuck what Spotify has to say. From Paul Satka. And my phone alerts are on. Professionalism at its highest point. A new report stated that Spotify employees are extremely bothered that the music streaming platform has not censored the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. According to Digital News, Music News, a self-described source for music industry news and analyses, Spotify employees are so angered about Rogan's free speech that they have threatened a full-blown strike if the company does not suppress certain JRE episodes and topics. I just joined Spotify too. That's the fucking worst part of it. And I don't want to come back down because I actually seem to have a pretty good sized audience from the Spotify edition. But, my God. Why? Why would you do a thing like this? On May 19th, Spotify announced that it had reached an agreement with Rogan for a multi-year exclusive licensing deal that is reportedly worth more than $100 million, according to the Wall Street Journal. In the deal, the Spotify gets the JRE full library, which adds up to nearly 1,500 episodes at 3 hours at a crack. It will remain free and will be the exact same show, Rogan said in the announcement on Instagram. It's just a licensing deal, so Spotify won't have any creative control over the show. And yet they're trying. Oh, they're trying. So, and Spotify is going to get wrecked by this. Either that or there are going to be tons of openings that come up on Spotify. People can come up and go work for Spotify and get in because, if I was the CEO of Spotify and I just got the exclusive rights to the biggest podcast in history with 2.6 billion views, If I just got the exclusive rights of this, I wouldn't care what some fuckface pink hair has to say about the podcast I just acquired. Walk out. There'll be someone else to take your job. But on the other side of it, Joe Rogan shouldn't have gone to Spotify. And he should be on alt tech, just like everybody else. Everybody should be on alt tech. I see a lot of DLive masks in the chat, which means that a lot of you are on alt tech. Everybody should be on alt tech at this point. All right. A little bit of bad news, because you got to have some bad news with this. From Fox News, Chicago violence, girl 5 stabbed to death in another bloody weekend. From Edmund DeMarsh and Greg Norman. Say her name. Say her name. They'll say it about Breonna Taylor. They don't give a fuck about this 5-year-old kid. A 5-year-old girl was stabbed to death Saturday morning in Chicago during another bloody weekend in the city that has resulted in at least 49 people being shot, including 7 fatally, reports say. The girl, identified as Serenity Arrington. Say her name. Say her name. Suffered multiple stab wounds and died shortly after being rushed to a local hospital, according to CBS Chicago. Neighbors in East Garfield Park tried to assist the girl, while her mother, 27-year-old Simone Austin, was charged in the death with first-degree murder, the report added. The motive for the attack was not immediately clear. Why? Why would you kill your own child? I can't believe that. For a second. Police have also launched a homicide investigation after the body of a woman with multiple stab wounds to her face and neck was retrieved Sunday morning from the Chicago River. The Chicago Sun-Times report that woman appeared to be in her mid-20s. The gun violence in the city began Friday night when a 19-year-old man reportedly was shot in the back and chest while walking in an alley. He was later pronounced dead at the local hospital. The next morning, a 17-year-old reportedly was standing in an alley in a different part of the city and was approached by 2 men. He was shot in the upper torso at about 11:10 a.m. and pronounced dead at the scene, NBC Chicago reported. In other shooting, targeting teenagers, a 17-year-old male was critically wounded in a drive-by attack in Englewood Sunday morning, while a 15-year-old male was struck in the leg after being approached by a vehicle later that day in South Shore, police told the Chicago Sun-Times. On Sunday night, a 20-year-old was reported to have died after being dropped off at a hospital in Englewood with a gunshot wound to his head. A 42-year-old man also died after being shot in the back at a gathering early Saturday in the South Shore, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. And yet, that's just in a weekend. And yet we're going to sit here and scream bloody murder about the fact that a justified shooting happened between a police officer and a man holding a knife that was about to steal a car that had children. I didn't even get that story up onto the stack. We'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. With his girlfriend, or his ex-girlfriend screaming, "He's going to take my kids, he's going to take my kids." They'll burn a city down over this. But they won't say a word about Serenity Austin. Or Arrington, rather. They won't say a word about Serenity Arrington. But they'll burn multiple cities down over a man who overdosed in police custody. Welcome to Chicago. And one more here from Chicago. Hopefully a little bit less heavy, but the last one for the day before we do into something that restores my faith in humanity. Chicago renames iconic LGBTQ Boys Town neighborhood over concerns that name was not inclusive of women, non-binary. From Emily Zanotti over at the Daily Wire. Following an inclusivity survey, Chicago's historic LGBTQ neighborhood, Boys Town, will rebrand as North Elstead and market itself as America's proudest neighborhood over concerns Boys Town referenced only one gender. Yes. That actually says that. Boys Town in Lakeview has been welcoming the LGBTQ community for 3 decades, but after a survey, some complained that the name excluded women and gender non-binary people, WGN News reported. The local business alliance voted last week to change the name, even though the 58% of residents who responded to the inclusivity survey said the neighborhood should remain Boys Town despite the fact that the name represents only one gender. Only 20% of respondents said they were offended by the name because it did not include references to women or to gender non-binary individuals. That 20% was enough to trigger a change. Wait, hold on. Now do the Electoral College. That 20% was enough to trigger a change. The tyranny of the minority, they say. Why is the minority doing things? Well, at this point, the minority is making the change. They're speaking the loudest, and they're changing the name of Boys Town, a historic Chicago district. Oh, I love this. I love this. Because this takes the entire Electoral College argument that they've been putting out forever, and it shoots it right in the fucking ass. Right straight in the ass. So yes, this is amazing. I don't want to hear another fucking word about less than 51% of the people deciding what happens in the country because of the Electoral College, because they changed a historic district in Chicago, over 20% of people in a poll. That is amazing. All right, and that's it for the news today. And the last thing that we do on Monday is a thing that restores my faith in humanity. So, I talked about the tax returns earlier. And some of the comments that are coming out of this are what's actually on the table here. But I wanted to give a little bit of credit where credit was due as well. So I tweeted out that I mentioned on my live stream that because of the Trump tax returns, everyone on Twitter on both sides was suddenly a tax attorney, when they were all constitutional law professors last week. And Watching Trains Go By summed up the sentiment perfectly. 100% perfectly, he summed up the sentiment on that. And I took the picture from the live chat. With his permission, I asked him, because I don't usually do screenshots unless I ask the person involved. And he put it in the live chat at 6:41 yesterday. Twitter University, the degree that makes you dumber. Fact check true. So, the thing that restores my faith in humanity, though, is the fact that nobody cares. In fact, people are looking for ways to, only the hardest core progressives right now care. Everyone else is looking for how can they pay less in taxes. Michaela Rose, who the hell cares about this tax returns? We have more important things to focus on. Joshua Smith, LNC at large. Trump only paid $750 in federal taxes in 2016 and 2017, and this is supposed to make me hate him. G says, you know how much people should pay in taxes? $0. $750 is too much for anyone to pay in income tax. Who doesn't try to pay the least amount possible in taxes? There's no heterosexual way to put chapstick on as a man. That has nothing to do with that, but I thought it was funny. And Jessie, the ACAB ANCAP, I followed her over this one here, says, Keynesians be like, print harder, daddy. So yes, this has brought up a major idea on taxation in this country and how much people are actually paying, and that actually does restore a bit of my faith in humanity. It's not that the people who want to pay or want everyone else to pay more in taxes are winning. The people want to pay less in taxes. And like I said at the top of the show, now that we know how much Trump paid in taxes in 2 years and over 10 years, everybody else wants to go back and see that they're paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in federal taxes and figure out how they, as well, can pay $750 in federal taxes. These people are looking for ways to do this. Taxation is theft. And people don't want to be stolen from by the government anymore. And that is what restores my faith in humanity. We will be back here later on. Hold on. We'll be back here later on tonight for a couple of additional hours of content with the Red and Ed Show with special guest host DM Morton. because Elaine is currently getting on a plane right now. If you guys could, follow the link in the description below to Elaine's Twitter page and go wish her some safe travels if you haven't already. We will see her next week for more Rednet Show, but please help me welcome DM Morton on tonight. Otherwise, we will be back here tomorrow with more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.